So this past week has been really tough for Xbox. We've seen so many rumors, so much speculation going around as to their future, what their plans are. Are they going to release exclusives onto the PS5? Do they have any intentions of no longer making consoles after this generation? There's been a lot going on, right? And unfortunately, these past couple of days haven't made the situation any easier for the Green brand. We've seen a number of new things drop, which have just added further fuel and speculation to the fire. So in today's video, I'm going to try and help you make sense of everything. We've got a number of things to discuss. First of all, apparently Xbox devs are confused internally as to what is going to be discussed and shared at this upcoming business event, which was announced by Phil Spencer. Second of all, the speculation that Xbox is going to rebrand Xbox Game Pass to Microsoft Game Pass, in addition to some other things. Third, apparently that Starfield rumor, which said the game was going to come to the PS5, might actually be false. Fourth, there's speculation that internally Xbox had a town hall where Phil Spencer talked about the future of its Xbox console business to the rest of the staff there. And finally, we have new data which suggests how well Xbox Series X and S have been selling in comparison to PlayStation 5 units. So a lot to discuss, a lot to get through, but I do want to clarify at the beginning here. I know this past week has been a lot of negative news for Xbox, right? I haven't been able to dictate that. I've just been reporting on the news as it comes in. I like Xbox, I like Nintendo, I like PlayStation. I don't care for console wars. And in fact, I don't want to see Xbox fail, especially in the console space and in the exclusive space, because that's going to mean bad things for us as consumers. Competition breeds excellence. We want all of these companies competing heavily with each other because that means better games, better products, better consoles, right? That is an absolute fact. We do not want Xbox to actually fail. And I've actually liked their strategy over the past few years because they've needed to think outside of the box. When you're competing with the likes of PlayStation and Nintendo, which have been dominating the consoles and the exclusive space for so many years, you do need to do things a little bit differently. So I've liked how they've gone about things, and I want to see them succeed in the future. So let me make that very clear, right? But let's get into the video. If you like this video, please like it. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But let's get into the news. So first of all, apparently Xbox devs are a little bit in the dark when it comes to this business event. Tom Warren, who is a reporter at The Verge, posted the following on Reset Era. Quote, I just want to make it very clear that most folks in Xbox don't know the full details of what Microsoft will discuss next week. So people that are backtracking on certain stuff never really knew either. And then he actually ended up deleting this post and said the following afterwards. Quote, deleting this since Metro reporters are confused and haven't read my post properly. So it wasn't that it was fake. He just wasn't happy with a lot of the reporting and the articles that came out in response to his post, right? And I want to say the following about it. Honestly, it's completely normal. For those of you that have worked in any company in the corporate space, you don't know at all times what the execs are thinking. You don't know at all times what senior management are planning or strategizing until it is ready. And it's clear in my eyes, Xbox upper management and the execs and Microsoft are still thinking about this stuff. They're still putting pen to paper and working on everything before they actually announce it to anyone, whether it's the public or even people internally at Xbox. Because if you aren't sure about things and you talk about that, it just breeds further speculation. It's not a good thing. It's completely normal company behavior. So I think it's a red herring and we don't need to read into it any further, right? But unfortunately, again, there's been further stuff which have just made everyone more on edge. So for instance, ZubiTech on Twitter talked about how Xbox have removed some of its Xbox branding with Game Pass. The following tweet says, quote, Microsoft removes Xbox Series and Xbox Game Pass logos from its site. Before, you have Xbox Series logos, and then after, it's just console, PC, and cloud. And they actually removed any mention of games coming day one to Xbox Game Pass as well. So when I looked at this, in all honesty, I thought, wow, this actually looks a little bit cleaner. It looks better. Do I think it means they're going to remove Xbox from Xbox Game Pass and call it Microsoft Game Pass? No, because they would have said a Microsoft Game Pass in the new branding, right? I think it just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit better, and I think people are reading into it a little bit too much. I get it. People are on edge, and so many things are happening right now, but I don't think that actually means anything. But then you have a GameStop talking about Microsoft Game Pass, right? Now, to be clear, this is a third-party company. This isn't Xbox themselves. But supposedly, they uploaded this branding onto their website, which was quote-unquote approved by Xbox, which referred to Game Pass as Microsoft Game Pass. Now, after this happened, they actually ended up changing it back to Xbox Game Pass, but they never gave any explanation as to why they did this, right? Did they jump the gun when it came to calling it Xbox or Microsoft Game Pass? Was it just a genuine mistake? Who really knows? But again, it's just a lot of stuff going around. I don't think we should read into this. And who cares if it's called Xbox Game Pass or Microsoft Game Pass, right? I don't think this means Microsoft is suddenly taking over the Xbox business. I know there's a lot of speculation and rhetoric going around that, but I honestly believe that Phil Spencer has the trust of Satya Nadella, has the trust of execs at Microsoft. This isn't suddenly going to change. Game Pass is doing well, maybe not as well as they would like. I know how aggressive their targets are, but Xbox is still doing all right. And Satya Nadella wouldn't give Phil Spencer and the team $70 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard. They wouldn't give the team $7.5 or whatever it was billion to acquire ZeniMax. They clearly have faith of the people at Xbox, including Phil Spencer. So I don't think any of this stuff means anything. I think it's a lot of rumor and people are just on edge, right? So let's go on to the next topic. So as I mentioned, apparently that rumor which said Starfield is going to come to the PS5 is actually false. So initially, Xbox Era was the one that reported on this, and they said the following on their website. Quote, according to sources, we understand that currently Microsoft are planning a launch for Starfield on PlayStation 5, post the release of the already announced Shattered Space expansion for Xbox and PC, which is on target to arrive at some point later this year. We've also been informed that Microsoft have made additional investment into PlayStation 5 dev kits to support ongoing development efforts, adding further fuel to the fire. And then following this article, when they tweeted about it, Nate the Hate, who is a well-known Xbox leaker and insider, he actually quote tweeted that article and said the following, quote, this report is accurate. Starfield will land on PlayStation. I've heard similar but opted to wait on reporting this information until the PS5 release timeline was finalized. As the report states, the PS5 release will come after the arrival of the expansion DLC on Xbox/PC. But then about 5 days later, he actually went back on that and said the following, quote, over the course of the week, I've rechecked the info mentioned below, and the information suggesting Starfield was PS5 bound is false. I will not delete the tweet. I'll own the mistake. A previous report from January discussing Microsoft bringing games multi-plat remains accurate. And then he followed on to say, for clarity, I'm only speaking for myself concerning Starfield, but new updated info on my side suggests Starfield is not destined for PS5, right? So, I don't blame him for being wrong. Like, it's such an incredibly tough space to be in when you're a reporter or a journalist and you have one source telling you one thing and another source maybe telling you something slightly different and you can't corroborate things. That's why I really appreciate what Jez Corden does. Jez Corden on Windows Central. He tries to get things confirmed from a number of different sources before reporting on it, because if you don't, oftentimes this stuff happens, right? And we all make mistakes. I don't have any ill will to Nate the Hate. I've made so many mistakes on this channel before, and I've had to backtrack, right? So I don't care that happened. But how do we process all of this stuff? How do we process this news about Starfield? Well, number one, we still have Xbox Era standing by its report. They haven't changed it, they haven't edited it, they haven't deleted it or anything like that, right? They still stand by its report that Starfield is supposedly coming to the PlayStation 5, right? So we still have them saying that. So maybe it's just less believable now, but I don't know. I still think all of this stuff is up in the air. Second of all, we still have a lot of other journalists with their own sources at least suggesting that Xbox is still planning to bring some exclusives to the PS5. It might not be Starfield, but they're thinking about some of them. So for instance, Tom Warren at The Verge said it was Indiana Jones. Jeff Grubb at Giant Bomb said it was Gears of War. And then several talked about Sea of Thieves and also Hi-Fi Rush as well, right? There's been so much rumor, so many reports, so much speculation that Xbox is at least thinking about this stuff. So it might not be Starfield, but it could be some other games in line with what they did with Ori and the Blind Forest on Nintendo Switch a few years ago, right? And Xbox is still going to have its business event this week. Remember what Phil Spencer said. He said, quote, we're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned. So clearly, something big is still happening, right? Phil Spencer may be just trying to get ahead of all these rumors and speculation, and maybe it's not actually anything that big. But some sort of event is going to happen where Xbox is changing its strategy. And I kind of agree that they need to, especially when I bring up all of these data points when it comes to Xboxes versus PlayStation 5 sales. I think Xbox does need to change things up a little bit. Something is going to change. You don't have a business event when everything is just going to stay the status quo, as I mentioned in my last video. But does it mean that Starfield is coming to the PS5? Not necessarily. Does it mean Indiana Jones is going to come to the PS5 and that Xbox are going to go completely timed exclusive with all of its Xbox games? Not necessarily. They might have very small changes, they might have big changes. Let's just wait until they actually have this business event. And then let's talk about the future of Xbox, right? We have a journalist, Shannon Liao, who said the following on their website, quote, "The company held an internal Tuesday town hall where Spencer told employees that there were no plans to stop making consoles and that Xboxes will continue to be part of a strategy that involves multiple kinds of devices. Xbox did not immediately return a request for comment." So if you believe this journalist, they're still going to release consoles. They're still going to do consoles in the future. Do I believe that they make sense if you're going to be doing everything as timed exclusives? Maybe not, but I don't know whether they're going to take away all of their exclusives from Xbox. I don't think Halo is going to go to PlayStation 5. I don't think Gears of War is going to go to PlayStation 5. I still think they're going to keep some big titles purely for Xbox. But some of these other titles that are in between, like Hi-Fi Rush or Sea of Thieves, yeah, maybe I think that makes a little bit more sense. But Starfield, not so much. Gears of War and Halo, not so much, right? But at the very least, they're not completely exiting the console space, if you believe this journalist. And ultimately, as I mentioned before at the beginning, I think that is a good thing because we don't want PlayStation not feeling like they need to compete against this big company in the form of Xbox or Microsoft when it comes to making the next console, when it comes to making the PlayStation 6. Similarly, when it comes to Nintendo making the Nintendo Switch 2, we want these companies to feel the pressure from everyone else to make the best product possible, right? But finally, let's talk about sales and why Xbox might actually be wanting to change up its strategy when it comes to Game Pass and exclusives, etc. So recently, Take-Two Interactive had a slide that was uploaded as part of its earnings report, which said that there were 77 million Gen 9 consoles outstanding worldwide as of December 31, 2023. So in other words, there's been 77 million consoles which have been sold, right? Now, that doesn't tell us anything on its own, but last year, Sony did say that it had sold 50 million PlayStation units, including Slim and the regular PlayStation, right? So if they've sold 50 million and Take-Two is saying 77 million has been sold, then we can say very roughly that maybe Xbox has sold 27 million Xbox Series X and S. So if that's the case and you do the math, PlayStation 5 has been outselling Xbox Series X and S to a ratio of about 2-to-1, right? It is stuff like this which makes me think some sort of big change to their strategy is actually coming. I don't think it needs to be major. I think they need to give it time. They just acquired ZeniMax. They just acquired Activision Blizzard, and it takes at least 4 years to make a big AAA game. Give them time to cook, give them time to make awesome exclusives, and then see where you are in 5 years. The unfortunate thing, I just don't know whether Microsoft is willing to wait for that. They have very aggressive targets for Game Pass. They have very aggressive targets for their consoles. Are they willing to wait 5 years for all of these investments to kind of bear fruit? I don't know, but let's see what they say at this upcoming business event. I hope I've covered this stuff as fairly as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.